the bookshop, it's the bookshop, it's the bookshop of Beverly Farms.
Howdy, everybody. It is Sam Feifel, your host of John Updike's Ghost, your favorite little podcast about reading, writing, literature, bookstores, books that are set in Maine, because I guess there aren't any other ones, and all things awesome. And I am here today, as always, but sounding even better because I have a cool new mic with the co-owner of the bookshop of Beverly Farms, my sister, and all-around great person, Hannah Harlow. How are you doing today, Hannah?
Still feeling a little harried. We just dropped off another book fair. That's why I'm late to meet you for this recording, but you do sound great. Love the new microphone.
It's very impressive, I must say. I have to sort of sit awkwardly because I have yet to figure out where to have the mic perfectly, but it's going better and better. I was so ashamed of the sound quality of our last ish.
Yeah, it was not great.
To get my act together. It was an embarrassment, and I apologize for it. But some people like it when people sound like this and do things like that. So those people were pleased. Everybody else was like, I don't want to listen to this anymore, which is fair.
Yeah, we tried to fix it midway through, but it just kind of wasn't fixable. So we had to go with it. But this is going to be much better. Much better.
Much better. So the book fairs are in full swing. We have completed the most successful independent bookstore day in the history of the universe. Also had a very successful Newburyport Literary Festival, which if you missed, it is too bad for you. I quite enjoyed it myself. What is going on otherwise? Hannah.
Great question. We are selling books at a Crispo Jallian event on Thursday. So just, probably the same day this really hits the wires.
It always comes out on Thursday for sure.
Yep. And next week, we're selling books in Ipswich at a J. Courtney Sullivan event, which I've maybe forgot to tell you to put on the website.
Oh.
So we're going to do that today.
Wow. Because I just saw.
You just saw her.
Saw.
The few books you didn't sell, we can now just roll over into this new event. It's so convenient.
Convenient. Yes. The premier, I would say, most packed presentation at the Newburyport Literary Festival featured none other than J. Courtney Sullivan, and also the author of Wedding People, whose name
Alison Esbach.
I was gonna get.
I thought you were prompting me because you forgot.
I was prompting you, but as I was prompting you, I was also prompting myself. And her name is Alison, but it's not Alison Bechdel, which is a different person.
That's a different person.
But her name does start with a B.
No, it starts with an E.
I thought it was Alison Belcher.
Esbach.
Wow, I was so far from that. That is just really bad. Anyway, the two of them were very popular. We sold a crap load of those books. People
sure did.
Enjoy it. They also had a great conversation. I'm trying to think who the host was. The host was somebody that is also an author whose name I'm not.
Yes, Holly.
Holly, yes. Do you know Holly's last name?
I do. It's somewhere in my brain. It's inaccessible at the moment.
Information available to me before I started talking about it.
Yeah.
But just in general, I thought it was really good. You know who was the star was Marjan.
That's what I heard. And I believe we sold out of the Lion Women of Tehran.
Yeah.
And I had someone email me and say, do you have any more signed copies? And I'm like, I'm sorry, we sold out. And she was a very understanding person who said, that is a good problem to have. And I said, yes, thank you so much.
No, we not only did we sell out of all those hard copies, people went over to
Jabberwocky
Books and bought all of the ones that they had and brought them back and had those signed and then sold all out at Jabberwocky, which is a much bigger store than ours. So they probably had a bunch of copies.
I have to say, Sam, we've discovered this at some of the other conferences we've sold at. When you have this lineup of authors, there's a superstar in there, and sometimes it's really hard to know who it is. So when I'm guessing on these book orders, I'm I overdo it sometimes and I underdo it sometimes. But sometimes it's just hard to know who the real standout superstar is going to be. And in this case, it was Marjan. And
she
that's
was
exciting to figure out.
She had this very dry sense of humor that I did not quite get for like the first 5 minutes. And then I was like, oh, wow, this woman is very funny. Just like super cutting, super monotone. She's Persian. She was born in Iran and moved when she was 8. Never actually lived there. She's only been on 2 trips. She was very clear about that. But great little backstory about how she wrote that book and how she pivoted in the middle of the pandemic. And she just was a star, and everybody, I mean, they ran to get that book.
That's awesome.
We also brought more of the Wedding People and the Cliffs, I think, anyway. So we probably sold the same amount. Jay Courtney and Allison also were very popular.
Yeah, I did, I think, bring a little more of those because I did sort of know, those are 2 books that spent a long time on the New York Times bestseller list. Wedding People is still on there, has been on there. So I sort of thought that event was clearly going to be one of the biggest events at the festival. Yeah.
I would say that in general, you did well. We took home very few books, made a lot.
Very happy with us.
Yeah. No, it was good. I was slanging books. I'll tell you,
Love it.
Slangs books like I do at those events. I got to say.
I do want to mention the Indie Bookstore Day. You mentioned we had our, best Indie Bookstore Day ever, which is true. But I do want to talk about the North of Boston Book Trail for a second because... But
making me think that a bad thing is happening now, but it's not.
No, it's not a bad thing at all. I just want everyone to know that you can still do the North of Boston Book Trail. There's 2 parts of it. You can, it's a passport challenge. So there are 19 stores on the passport and you try to go to all 19 stores and get a stamp. And you can do it over Indie Bookstore Day weekend, which has helped us be so busy on Saturday and Sunday.
Posting on the Insta, it's stop number 7, Bookshop Bedford Farms.
But you can also do the slow and steady challenge. And so you can see how many stores you can visit, try to get to all 19 over the course of the summer. So you have from now until Labor Day to do that. And we still have passports in the store. Wow. And there are other stores that have other passports and you can print one out if, you don't get a fancy one from us.
So I complete this passport. What happens?
What's that? If you complete it?
Complete this passport.
So you get entered when you go to your last store, you fill out a finisher form that a bookseller will kind of confirm that you've gone to all the stores. And then you get entered to win a prize. So for the slow and steady challenge, I believe the grand prize is a $20 gift card to every store.
Every store? 19? Yeah. That's a good amount of cash.
That's a good amount of books to buy.
It's like $380.
Yeah. I know, it's good.
Really the math, I don't know.
I don't know. We should get to our agenda.
What is on your agenda today?
I just have 2 books.
Me too.
And they're both kind of thrillers, actually. I have Heartwood by Amity Gaige, and I have The Doorman by Chris Pavoni.
Wow. Neither of mine are thrillers. I have The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar.
Wait, interrupt for a second. Did I ever talk about that on the podcast? Because I read that book, so I'm excited to talk about this.
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember if you might have.
I don't think I did. I think I missed it because I think we were in a, transition for me period, and I somehow missed it. So I'm so excited to talk about this with you.
Oh, well, because it's a great follow-on from your fairy book from last week, the Encyclopedia of Fairies.
Yes.
And also, I read a very weird book called Endling by Maria Reva, which you sent me in the
Oh, yes. I feel like
C pile.
Okay, I'm excited to talk about this one too.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, I
haven't read Endling, but I'm excited to hear your take on it because I was very curious about this book.
It's pitched as like an absurdist book. And so I was kind of expecting something along the lines of the Bulgarian stuff I was reading before. But
because this one is set, tell us where?
It's set in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And the author, Maria, is a Ukrainian expat living in Canada. Her family moved out of Ukraine, when the Russians were fucking with it 25 years, 30 years ago, a long time ago. So she grew up in Western Canada. And so it's weird because it's very meta in that I think what really happened was that she was writing this book that was, sort of an absurdist book that kind of sent up the Ukrainian bridal industry, right? So there's this whole, online thing for rich men where, Ukrainian women are supposed to be extra pliant and they're all blonde and beautiful. And they're just dying to marry some rich Western man who will spirit them back to the United States, Canada, or whatever place. And they have these bridal tours where men come and they have cotillions and whatnot, and the men try to find a woman to marry, whatever, right? But in the middle of writing this book, Putin invades Ukraine. And so she doesn't feel like she can put out this book sort of mocking Ukraine while this actual, real life disaster is happening. And it gets super meta because she just stops the book midway through. Oh, wow. And then you get first person from her, thinking about, what she's doing. The author. Yeah. Full, smashing of the fourth wall. Author comes in, is like, hey, everybody, and here, then there's a, back and forth with her agent who, which is obviously fictionalized, but her agent, this doesn't seem like a book, actually, whatever, and she's like, no, I'm totally writing a book. And he's like, seems like short stories. We told you couldn't write short stories. And then there's this whole thing. Apparently George Saunders has a famous quote about a novel being a mansion and a short story being a collection of yurts or something. I don't know. Okay. So then there's this whole yurt metaphor where she goes and talks to yurt manufacturers. And then we come back to the story of the, brides who have, there's a whole ridiculous plot that's not really worth talking about. There's not really a plot. Okay. It's kind of fun. It's a funny book in a lot of ways. It's, dark humor. One of the Ukrainian brides' mother is a feminist activist. Ukrainian women are known for protesting topless or whatever, when the Pussy Riot stuff was happening, so she's the mother, she's this daughter of this feminist, and she's in a bridal competition or whatever, but so that doesn't really matter, she continues the story, and the invasion happens in the middle of the plot now, right? So we got this in Ukraine, just about brides or whatever. It's funny. We're going to kidnap all of the grooms. And then boom, total break of the fourth wall, and then comes back and it's oh, our plans are ruined because Putin invaded Russia. And then, it kind of gets even more meta, because we've been provided all this context. I don't know really what to. I think it's important in that I just don't think we can grapple with how awful the Ukrainian war is. I don't think we can grapple with how awful war is. But it's, we have more access sort of culturally to the people of Ukraine. So, Aleppo gets wiped off the face of the earth. I think Americans sort of put it in a box oh, that's the shit that happens in the Middle East. Just don't go there. You'll be safe. Ukraine looks and walks and talks like every other European city. They're all white people that look like people in Maine. There's all kinds of Ukrainian flags or whatever. But I still don't think most people sort of can wrap their head around oh, a missile just hit the apartment building and my grandfather died because a cinder block went through his head, And so I think it does grapple with that. And I think she, as an author, really struggles to figure out how to convey that or even how to wrap her own head around it. She has this whole survivor's guilt because she's trying to get her relatives out of Ukraine, but she's already out of Ukraine. I think she does a good job. I don't know. There's part of me that's like, you're just salvaging something that didn't exist. Like, is it better if she conceived of it this way in the first place? Is it better if she's salvaging a novel that wouldn't have worked? I don't know. But
So I'm looking
a little bit by saying it's like this absurdist novel. Like, I don't think that's really what it is. They say it's like in the style of Percival Everett, and I don't know about that.
So there's a Percival Everett quote that says, "This novel turns corners and tables. I love works that are smarter than I am, and this is one." That's what Percival Everett said about it.
I get that because of all the meta stuff. Like, that's not, I just don't know if it's as in like Percival Everett stuff. Every time I read it, I'm like just delighted. I'm like, oh my God, this is one of the best things I've ever read. This one, I was like, okay, that's a cool little parlor trick, like you made mine disappear. Good job.
Okay. All right. So it sounds interesting, at least. And
interesting. Yeah. It's a literary novel. Like, I think it's very much of this time. Like I said, it's charming at times. It's, well written. I just, I'm not super right now. I'm not super into like this Brechtian, like, look at the infrastructure of the piece of art I'm making for you. Like, I just feel like I don't.
Right. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about Heartwood by Amity Gaige next.
I find this title amusing because the name of the literary magazine of Gray New Gloucester High School is Heartwood. So
interesting. Did not know that.
Maine now. Did she steal the name of our art and literary magazine?
I don't know. Maybe. But anyway. So Heartwood is a thriller, I would call, I guess. And I listened to it. So it was an audiobook, and we were selling a few copies, and I got curious. People seemed, it was one of those books that like kept kind of selling. So I thought, oh, maybe this is going to have legs. And it was a Jenna pick.
It's a nice,
a nice cover. Did you say? Yeah. So I started listening to it, and to be honest, I just wasn't really that interested. Like, I thought, so the premise is this woman is hiking the Appalachian Trail, spending the whole summer doing it. And she's doing kind of the top half first. So she's hiking north, and she gets into Maine, and she goes missing. So it opens with like, okay, there's a missing woman, and you're getting multiple perspectives in the story. So you're getting the hiker's voice where she's lost in the woods. And you're getting the game warden, who's a woman. She's like the second female game warden in Maine's history. And she's kind of a legend. And she's, in her late 50s. She's very experienced. She's really good at her job.
Style here.
And then you're getting interviews with some of the hikers who she met along the trail. But I was sort of like, this doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Like, you're interviewing these hikers, and I was like, they're not really giving you many clues. Like, it just seemed to be more about like, isn't this a interesting character? And I was like, I don't know, it's not really that interesting. So anyway, I gave up on it. But then your wife, my sister-in-law, texted me the other day, and she said, are you listening to Heartwood? I'm riveted. I'm halfway through and I'm riveted. So I thought, you know what, maybe I didn't give it enough chance. I'm going to keep going. I had this, long drive. So I finished it. It was a bit of a struggle to finish it, to be honest, because I kept thinking.
It's not like the narrator. Do you have a narrator problem?
No, the narrators were okay, actually. Multiple respects. So I didn't love every single narrator, but I thought they were pretty good. There were a lot of different voices. So there are no twists to this thriller. There are no surprises. Like, exactly what you think is going to happen. And then I kept thinking this, like, well, I think we're just going to, like, eventually find her. Like, we're just going to go through the effort to find her. And they kept, like, it took a really long time to find her. I'm sorry, I'm kind of giving stuff away. But, if you're listening to this, you're not going to hear me talking about this book and think, let me run out and read this. So they take a long time to find her, and they do like the biggest search of Maine ever. And they just have people going out canvassing thousands of acres and thousands of square miles like every day. And it's so weird they can't find her. So something strange must have really happened in this case. Like, this is an anomaly, And when you find out what happened, you're just like, oh, this doesn't seem, I don't get, like, it's not that interesting. I'm sorry, it's just not that interesting. So I can't super recommend it. And then I also, it's set in Maine. It's set, they're stationed at Sugarloaf. That's where the base of operations is for this search. It's at Sugarloaf. Okay. Huh?
Set in like our family backyard.
Yes. We have spent a lot of time at Sugarloaf. I can't say it was necessarily recognizable at Sugar. It was summer, so it wasn't like ski season when we're usually there. So the one line I can't get out of my head is the way the Amish put up barns, Mainers search for people in the woods. And I thought, when was the last time my brother or my parents searched for people in the woods?
That's a bit. I mean, Amish people do put up barns really well, and there's a lot of Amish people living in Maine now. I mean, there is like a sort of, search in the woods for people like somewhere in Maine, like once a couple years.
Sure. Yeah, people get lost and they go look for them. But like, as a Mainer, is it part of your identity that you search for people in the woods?
I think it really misreads the difference between Maine and New Hampshire, actually, because New Hampshire is wicked good at finding people in the woods because people get lost on Mount Washington all the time.
Yeah, the White Mountains are like
White Mountains are dangerous. The Maine mountains are very friendly, and we do have our iconic story, Lost on a Mountain in Maine, which I highly recommend you should go watch.
Yes.
Very enjoyable PG movie for you and your children. But I think the reason that Lost on a Mountain in Maine is so sort of popular is because it's like this friendly story. Yeah, you got lost in Maine, but Maine's not that bad. And this kid was fine.
He survived. He was fine.
But like if you get lost in New Hampshire, you're
screwed. Yeah.
So I think that's like
surprise, you're gonna freeze to death in the summer. Like
it's a big miss because, like, I would say in New Hampshire, they search for people in the woods like the Amish put up bars. But in Maine, we're like, we tromp around a little bit. We're like, we'd be fine.
Anyway, I could be more generous. And like, yes, I'm sure, like, of course, with the game wardens and the people who volunteer, I'm sure that is what they do. I just thought it was kind of like a big statement to apply this to like everybody in Maine.
Yeah, and like, so like, the Maine forest people are like cops,
Yes.
viewed with the same powers as the like county sheriff and stuff.
Like Paul Dryden's series is about a game warden, right?
Or thought of, like the Northwoods, there's that show, like it's usually like a law enforcement capacity. Like, they're not like the search and rescue guy. Like New Hampshire's like search masters. Like I actually never hear about Maine, like awesome search and rescue. It's just that's a miss. That is a very big miss.
Anyway, I mean, so when, your wife told me she was riveted, I just thought, oh, like I want to get riveted. And I never got riveted. So, but obviously a lot of other people are. I've heard a lot of comments from people that they really like the book. So I don't know what it was that I missed.
Might be that we both know lots of hippies who have actually walked the, trail. Like I know like so many people who've done the AT trail that it's like super cliche and like, oh, I've got a trail name and you get a little nickname and like look at me, I'm super tough. And everybody's like, yeah, whatever. We just do that all the time. Like, oh, wow, you went hiking for a long time. Big deal. So maybe like people get captured by the like romance of the AT. And
well, I have to say, there's this whole other storyline about this woman in Connecticut who's in like a assisted living facility, who does help solve like, and it. I'm sorry, again, there are no surprises. Like, you're like, why am I getting this woman's story in Connecticut? Like, and she's in a wheelchair. Like, she's not about to go to Maine and help with the search, but you're getting her story because she's going to help in some way. And it just takes so long. And there's so much tedious stuff about her life that I'm like, why do I care about this meal she had with these people in her assisted living facility that like didn't go well? It contributes nothing to the story. I guess it's like all character development or whatever, but it was just not like it wasn't It wasn't for me.
Thriller that didn't thrill you, I
It
think.
didn't thrill me.
Well, but you seem to have been thrilled by The River Has Roots by your.
Oh, I love this book so much, actually. I think it's so beautiful.
So I read it. Again. It was in the ARC box that you sent me. I think it was well targeted. There's a lot of things about this that I am predisposed to like. I noticed it's actually selling quite well. It's like a top 100 book. And I can see why. It's a nice little package, small. And actually it's smaller even than its package looks, because there's like a whole second story that they crammed in there, because they're like, oh, wow, this isn't actually long enough to be a book. And so it's a nice little tidy story. Amal El-Mohtar, I don't know anything else about them. I didn't do any research, although they were very nice and retweeted me on Blue Sky, so they're cool.
I'll tell you the one thing I know, which is what drew me to the book in the first place, is Amal was a co-writer with Max Gladstone on the book This Is How You Lose the Time War.
Oh, yeah. They talk about that in the intro.
Okay.
Well, sure, yeah. Did you read This Is How You Lose the Time War? I didn't read that.
No, it's just been kind of a continual seller. Yeah.
Makes me want to read that. So is it a she? Amal is a she?
Yeah, she's a she.
So it's a very mythological type book. It's set in old-timey England or something, because it's about the border to the fairy realm, right? There's lots of stories in the canon about what happens when you go into fairy, and you being lured into fairy, or all this sort of stuff. But it ends up being like this treatise on sisterhood, and there's these two sisters. One of them has a romance with a fairy. One of them is younger. I'm not going to ruin the plot such as it is. There's not a whole lot of plot. You can kind of see what's going to happen. But what I just enjoyed the riffing on, fairy, because I think sometimes fairy gets portrayed as this magical, happy place. But, all the good fairy lore, the fairies are mean and spiteful and they trick you. Dangerous. You don't want to fuck with them. And I thought this did a great job with that. And just a good playful the magic. And it also has all of these songs in it. It's also this celebration of singing and community sort of storytelling via song, which I usually really dislike. I think you have to really work hard to make the song part great. Often it's just poetry and you can't hear it in your head, but all these songs, I could hear them as little folk songs. They felt like real sort of things that might be in the folk tradition. I just thought it was beautiful. It was a very pretty book,
the audiobook, the audiobook, they actually play the song. They add a musical element.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, I agree. I thought it was really beautifully written. And I really liked, I think there's an appeal to how she writes about the fairy world and sort of the border land that they're in. That would appeal particularly to people who love language, because there's a lot about how the magic is in the grammar.
It's grammar instead of magic. Yeah. I enjoyed the magician was a grammarian, and I appreciated that there was some cool grammar jokes in there that I think that, only English teachers would appreciate. I appreciate.
Yeah, but it felt, it was smart, right?
I thought it was wicked smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was wicked smart without being look how smart I am,
Yes, totally. And
I thought it was clearly she's someone who genuinely loves the way that language is constructed and works with itself, and
Totally. Yeah. Highly recommend.
No, totally enjoyed it.
Cool. I have no transition because this next book is very different. Again, it's a thriller. And I think I've been so busy the past couple of weeks that I needed these fast-paced books and just whatever. This one is The Doorman by Chris Pavoni. And I've read at least one other of his books. He usually does these international espionage books where it's a couple is married and living in Lithuania or something, and they're secretly spies. And they're super fun. And I was very excited to have a new book by him. So The Doorman, though, is a little different. It is set in New York City, So I sort of, for me, started as like a disappointment because I thought we were going to get another like European spy escapade. Yeah. So then one of the main characters is this guy, Chicky, who is the doorman at like a super fancy hotel on Central Park in New York City. And then you get the couple characters who live there. So one is this woman who's married to a billionaire, and she is like elegance itself, and everyone loves her, and she's super generous. And this other guy, Julian, who owns an art gallery and managed to like get a place there, but maybe money isn't coming so easily anymore. And all these lives are going to converge. So you're getting kind of their different storylines. And then by the end, everything does converge. And I do think in this case, there were twists. There were things you didn't see coming. I liked the way the things converged. There were some red herrings, which, worked. Like, Chicky gets involved in some trouble. And so it's like, is this going to be the thing that comes to bite us in the ass in the end? Or is it the trouble that this, like Julian, the art gallerist, has gotten into? Like, everyone has their secrets and their problems, and they all convene at the end. But I think he has a lot to say about like our current, I don't know, just like cultural issues, like various characters, you have the billion. What's that?
Lots of social commentary.
Lots of social commentary. So the billionaire wife, she volunteers at this like food bank, and her husband is the billionaire and, is getting some like right-wing kind of Trumpy tendencies. And so when you get his voice, he's kind of like railing against, all this PC nonsense. And when you get the wife's voice, she's like, I know my husband feels this way, but like, I think this is the right thing to do. And I don't know, everyone's just kind of like, there are a bunch of rants. There are a lot of rants about the state of the world and rich versus poor and race and just everything. Like it covers like quite a bit of ground.
You don't really need quite so much.
I maybe didn't need quite so much.
No.
Yeah. But, for the most part, it was like a pretty satisfying thriller.
All right.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Only Murders in the Building. Do you watch that show?
I watched the first season.
I watched it with Gus, and it was hilarious.
It was good. I did like it. You're right. It is a little bit like that. Did you just ask something? You cut out.
Oh, that's Selena Gomez is amazing.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So good. I was hoping that the book was like that.
It doesn't necessarily have that humor element that you might be looking for from that show, but it has the like different perspectives and, who did what wrong, and you're in different, you get the like who the super is, and you get the doorman, and you have the worker. So it's a little upstairs, downstairs. You have the workers, and then you have like a few of the people who live in the building.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good.
It's pretty good.
All right. Well, that's better than
bad. Better than don't go read this. Like I say, yeah, if you want a satisfying like page turner for your, beach vacation, yeah, it's a good one.
All right. Well, as much as I enjoy speaking into this new microphone of mine, I think probably I don't have anything left to talk about. And we've already done our pimping at the beginning, which was amazing.
We did. That's
really,
true.
Really strong, I thought. So we could probably wrap this up unless you have other pressing topics that you wanted to address.
I can't think of anything else at the moment. So, we'll just have to save it for 2 weeks from now.
Save it for 2 weeks from now. I feel like I need to read like a blockbuster of some kind. Like, I feel like, need some sort of, what's the big new book coming up so I can have some preview of that.
Right. Okay. We're going to work on that for you. I feel like I need some like good literary fiction or something.
Say the exact. You need to read some books that are not like thrillers.
I need some weird, obscure book, and you need some big blockbuster book.
Lots of literary stuff. So I need some.
Right. We're going to work on that in the next 2 weeks, and we'll get back to you.
All right. Sounds good.
We have a plan.
I have to prepare for my trip to Iceland. I'm going to read a lot of books on my trip. I need to
Exciting.
read nothing but like Joe Nesbo. It'll be like all Scandinavian murders while I'm in Iceland.
Okay. Freak yourself out.
Okay, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.